Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. We're talking receivers, Bill Landis, as you're joined by Bill Landis and Doug Lesmerises. And Ohio State has two excellent receivers, Bill. And maybe it's because Carnell Tate's season has been surprising in a lot of ways. It's been outstanding. It's been a little more co-headlining with Jeremiah Smith than I think people anticipated, which has led, not surprisingly, and it's not unwarranted, but also it's a little bit maybe our Ohio State fans like looking for things to be worried about. Sort of, well, not what's wrong with Jeremiah Smith. That is not it at all. But just a little curious about almost why is Carnell Tate as good as Jeremiah Smith? And it's like, well, maybe it's because Carnell Tate is awesome. But then there's just a little bit of like a scooch, right? Is Jeremiah Smith maybe not exactly what people expected, even though he is fourth in the nation in targets among power conference receivers, and he is in yards, he is eighth. So it's like, how come Jeremiah Smith is only eighth in the nation in receiving yards among power conference receivers? And it's like, well, I don't know. There's a million things, but also that's still awesome.
Yeah, he's also like fifth or sixth in touchdowns, and I think like seventh in catches. He's like top 10 in everything. So yeah, there's definitely a hint of that. I don't know the right way to quite characterize it either, because it's not what's wrong with Jeremiah Smith. Again, to like kind of state the obvious, there's nothing wrong with him. He's awesome. I do think it's a bit surprising, as you mentioned, that the offense is not simply throw the Jeremiah, but that's great for Ohio State, right? It's just maybe not exactly what people expected coming into the year. And you're also coming off of a game against Wisconsin where Carnell Tate made probably the catch of the year for Ohio State, right? And simultaneously, Jeremiah Smith had a couple like 50-50 opportunities that he did not catch, which I think we'll talk about. So like you do the side-by-side comparison from that game, and I suppose I could see that what would lead you to like, well, what's going on here? Like, is this okay, kind of thing? And like, I think our answer is like, of course it's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong. I just think it's different than what we expected. It's a credit to Carnell Tate. I also think fairly we should like some of Carnell Tate's success is because he plays with Jeremiah Smith, right? I think anybody who watches the games understands that. But he's awesome. They're both awesome. So I don't. I'm not like concerned about anything. I don't know. I don't really know that anybody should be. But I will at least acknowledge that it is a bit of a different dynamic than probably was expected coming into the season.
I will say I've had a couple people come up and say this to me. They'll say things like, I love Bill. Bill's still great. But are we sure that Bill is really getting it done as a podcaster? And then I just say, well, it's because I'm also good. And like, that's like, it doesn't make Bill worse, but you're surprised about how good I am. And so I just don't want that to reflect poorly on you, but I think you've handled it great.
Thank you. I'll take the comparison where I'm Jeremiah Smith.
Do you know how hard it was for me to make you Jeremiah Smith in that comparison and not myself? So, by the way, three things real quick. One, if you want more Substack stuff, like more Ohio State stuff from us, we have a Substack, and we're writing about this on the Substack as well, because we got a lot of questions about it. So we're answering Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith questions in written form over there. Bill and Doug, osu.substack.com. We'd invite you to come join us. Second thing, like, subscribe, whatever, like you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you're just like, oh, I like this so far. Like, subscribe so you don't miss anything, right? We would just like do it right now before pause it and do it. Just like go hit that thing. And then the other thing is roback.com, RHOBACK.com. It's here. Fall is here. Fall is here. Quarter zip time, hoodie time. Feel like you're supporting your team. It's the game day collection. They have all kinds of great Ohio State stuff, Bill, but it's high quality. It's classy. It reps Ohio State, but it's also maybe like a little more subtle than some of the things you have. It's just like, I know you have a lot of Ohio State gear as a loyal Ohio State fan, but still go check out Roback anyway. Right, Bill?
Yeah, these hoodies are sweet, man. They got Caleb Downs here at the top of the screen rocking a nice hoodie with a Buckeye leaf in the middle. And as you mentioned, there is a chill in the air, and it is hoodie time. So I recommend going. There's a nice crew neck here. You got great stuff for when the weather turns a bit colder.
Go do it now. Go check it out right now. And if you do it and you put in an order for the first time, your first order, you're saving 20%. You put in the code BAD20, BAD20, you save 20%. All right. I have 4 things here as we think about how Ohio State is using Jeremiah Smith and working Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate together. Let's go with this one first. The idea of, are they, you said, like, if people thought the whole offense would be like, get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, right? And maybe it hasn't been that. I think it also kind of has been that, because as we noted, he's 4th in the Power 4 in targets. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State has 90 targets this year in 7 games, which is unbelievable. And I asked you before the show, why is that? Why is that, Bill?
Because he's the only person they have to throw the ball to.
Yeah. So it's like, is that what you want? Is that like, that's not the answer. So he's such an outlier. It's almost not worth comparing him to anybody else, right? That's not what Ohio State fans want. Then Jacob DeJesus from Cal has 69. Brandon Staley from Tennessee has 65. Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State has 63. Chris Bell from Louisville and Omega Blake from Arkansas have 62. Makai Lemon, who's another great Big Ten receiver, has 61. Like all this, like it's Elijah Surratt from Indiana has 57. Denzel Boston from Washington has 56. They are getting him the ball. Ryan Williams from Alabama has like 35 targets. Like that's a problem. This is not a problem. And so we've talked about this before. There was a time in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s second season as a starter where they were not getting him the ball early, and then it clicked in. I actually think this is a victory of getting him the ball, and he's probably not getting the ball in exciting ways. There's more like 8-yard outs and that kind of thing. But the whole point is that defenses want to take away the exciting plays to Jeremiah Smith. And Ohio State, rather than saying, oh, well, they're gone, they are making sure they get him the ball in boring ways. And now we're back. Like the number one discussion around Ohio State this year is they're too boring. Their excellence is boring. Their efficiency is boring. It applies to both the team and also to Jeremiah Smith in a way, because he is getting the ball.
Yeah, I think he's getting the ball plenty. You're right. Like, especially as Ohio State gets more into this world of throwing those run pass options where the receivers are kind of either running a hitch or like a speed out. Like there's going to be 7-8 yard catches. And Jeremiah Smith's going to be on the other end of a lot of those. So like, I actually didn't look up like his depth of target. I'd imagine it's not particularly deep compared to a lot of other receivers because of that. But it's efficient. Like you must think of it as like a handoff to Jeremiah Smith for 8 yards, right? It's incredibly efficient and so important to what Ohio State wants to do offensively to kind of like get some momentum going, get teams to change the way they're defending them so they can run the ball a little easier, so they can get corners closer and start throwing the ball over people's heads. Like those plays are necessary to make all of that happen. But through 7 games, there's just been a lot of that. It's not only that. I think in the games where teams have tried to challenge Ohio State with man coverage, and that hasn't happened a lot, but when it has happened, they've done a nice job of using all of their receivers, not just Jeremiah, but Jeremiah specifically, more down the field. But I think, as with anything, you do have to take into consideration how teams are defending Ohio State. And at the moment, the way they're defending Ohio State, and particularly the way they're defending Jeremiah, leads you to use him kind of on those shorter sort of concepts.
Actually, his average depth of target and his yards per reception are actually pretty normal for good receivers. He just does not compare to last year's Jeremiah Smith. Last year, he averaged 17.3 yards per reception, which is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. For a guy with 1,300 yards, because sometimes when your yards per reception is that high, it's because you're a deep ball specialist who has 31 catches for 781 yards or whatever. He's not that. So 17.3 yards per reception last year is through the roof, is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty high for that volume. Yes, that's pretty high.
So it's 12.3 this year. So it's 5 yards fewer per reception. And then average depth of target last year, it was 12.8 yards. That's like how far does the ball travel in the air when they're throwing you the ball? Last year, 12.8. This year, 10.2. So again, as we always talk about with Ohio State, sometimes the best standard for Ohio State is to itself, but sometimes the most difficult standard to Ohio State is to itself. But when you go through average depth of target and yards per reception for like a lot of other guys, this is not like way under it. It's not like, oh no, what is happening here. It's just not quite what it was a year ago.
Right. And I think if you look at it's interesting, like his yards per route run are basically the same. This year it's 3.15 last year, 3.14 this year. But his yards after the catcher are somewhat different. He's averaging about 2 yards fewer after the catch per reception this year compared to last year. He just has less space. Like he was,
yes,
as the season went on last year, he got less space, but from the jump this year, he's had less space to operate. And that just cuts down on the explosion. He is as efficient as he was last year, perhaps even more efficient. But the explosivity, I think, is the lack of it. I think is the thing that people are maybe scratching their head out a little bit. But I do think a lot of it makes sense when you consider all the attention that he's getting.
So one of the other things that people have suggested is like, is he the first read often enough? And I'm just a man, but I rewatched the first drive against Wisconsin, for instance, when they came out and threw the ball on every play except one. Mm-hmm. By my TV copy looking at things, so they threw 8 passes on that drive. One was a quick little flip to Max Clare that was clearly the design, right? And one was a screen to Brandon Innes that was clearly the design. So those are 2 of them. And you could say like the Max Clare one, Jeremiah Smith is out there blocking, right? Yep. That's what that's designed for. The other 6 throws, by what I could tell where he was lined up and where Julian Sayin seemed to look first. Now, ball knower Bill Landis. Also, are there not times when a quarterback, he looks somewhere first, but that's not actually the first read. He's looking there on purpose to draw the defense, and then he's getting to where the ball is actually supposed to go, right?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just saying where Julian Sayin looked, okay, on these other 6 throws. I would say 5 times he looked at Jeremiah Smith first, and the other time it was either Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate. I couldn't really tell. And then that 6 passes, Jeremiah Smith got the ball twice. But the idea of, are they not looking at him enough? That's a tiny little snapshot. And I did not go through all of Julian Sayin's throws from the first 7 games to see where he was looking first. But this was like, I think to people, that was the best encapsulation of a successful Ohio State passing game, the first drive against Wisconsin. And they looked at Jeremiah Smith every time that it wasn't a quick little screen to somebody.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they're either looking at him because he's legitimately the first read, or they're using the attention he's drawing to draw the defense even more within the play and then going to somebody who's open. So either one of those are effective uses or effective attempted uses of Jeremiah Smith.
I just don't think in college football, quarterback play being what it is at that level, that your guy who's leading the team in targets is the guy who's often the second or third read in the progression, especially at a place like Ohio State. So like he leads the team in targets because he's often the first read.
By a lot.
Yeah, by a lot. He has 20 more targets than Carnell Tate does. So like I don't know, like yeah, they're within certain concepts, like there's always like the bing bang boom and like where your eyes go first, and then I'm not saying it's always Jeremiah Smith, but it often is him. Like I guess like the thing I would say to that is like Ohio State is not purposefully designing its offense in a way where Jeremiah Smith is like not the first read for Julian Sayin, or that the ball wouldn't go to him enough. You can't drop back and have him be your first read every time, but I would imagine on a large percentage of the times Julian Sayin is dropping back, the first thing he's thinking is number 4, even if the ball doesn't end up going there.
Right. Okay. So within that, there was one particular play. I'm going to do it. I know you said don't do it. You're the chief.
Pull it up, man. Do it.
I'm going to do it anyway.
Do it.
It's a screenshot from the game. If you're listening on a podcast, we will describe it to you. If you're watching here on YouTube, this is a screenshot from what turned into a check down to Bo Jackson. And if you can't exactly see it exactly, the guy in white on the left side of the screen running deep between 2 Wisconsin defenders, that's Jeremiah Smith. Julian Sayin's in the pocket. You can see Bo Jackson is standing on the W. He's the check down that is going to get the ball. There's an Ohio State receiver to the right with a guy on him and another guy lurking. There's an Ohio State receiver. That's Carnell Tate, I think. There's a guy in the middle of the field. That's Brandon Innes with two guys on him. There's a flat-footed defender short of Jeremiah Smith. And then there's somebody running with Jeremiah Smith. And you can see the safety in the middle of the field is lurking a little bit. But as I look at this, Bill, this looks like an opportunity to get Jeremiah Smith the ball deep. I don't think the middle safety is going to get over there. And he has leverage on the inside guy. If you throw this down the middle of the field and lead him a little bit, it feels like there's something there. There's also like the pocket has collapsed a tiny bit. I'm not 1,000% sure.
He got
Julian
pressured.
Sayin could step into this. Yeah.
Yeah, there was look, if you're not watching on YouTube, you can't tell this. His right tackle is to his left. So like Philip Daniels is behind him and to the left. So there was pressure off the right side. Julian had to step up, but he also, in stepping up, had time to like reset his feet and look downfield. Like when I rewatched the game, I thought to myself, like, that was probably a missed opportunity to get a shot to Jeremiah, and they don't always present themselves. And you sent this to me and I said, yeah, like this is probably and again, it's not a criticism of Julian Sayin, because like this was a check down to Bo Jackson that I think went for like 15 yards, right?
Yes.
So it's not like it was a bad play, but with the way that Ohio State is being defended most often, and by that I mean like they see a ton of cover three. J Bud Davis, great follow on Twitter, like sends out these profiles of teams offensively and like what they run out of, what they see defensively. And Ohio State sees middle of the field closed coverage, which is either cover three or cover one, 54% of the time. And they see zone, which would be cover three, 63% of the time. So like they hardly ever see any cover one, and they see a bunch of cover three. And the way you attack that, or at least one of the ways, is down the seams. And in every game this year, I feel like I've seen opportunities to attack the seams. And Julian Sayin has not started to like regularly pull that trigger just yet.
Yes.
I think he will, but he's not yet. That's why I thought the touchdown pass to Carnell Tate at the start of the game was so encouraging, because that was like right down the middle of the field. Wasn't against cover three, it was against cover two, but it was,
and had to reset himself on that too.
Yeah, different coverage, but like it's just deep down the middle, basically, is kind of the idea. But yeah, I think this is a good play to call out, because I thought, again, he was pressured, he was stepping up. There's also pressure coming down on him. He ends up on this play like kind of throwing this pass off balance, sort of to his side to Bo Jackson. So it wasn't the cleanest pocket, but I thought there was an opportunity to throw this down the seam. And there have been others this year, whether it's Jeremiah, Max Clare, Carnell Tate, they've all had it, but it's probably impacted Jeremiah the most to not take these shots. So that is absolutely an area where the passing game needs to continue progressing, because it's the coverage that Ohio State sees most often, and it's a way to attack it with like explosives. And like that's the thing that Ohio State is still, I think, searching for, is those explosive plays, right? And this is probably, I think, fairly assessed as a missed opportunity for one of those.
Yeah. And I do think it remains the thing. And again, this is not just us talking, like we talk to people. It's like the one thing. I think it's the one thing left for Julian Sayin. And we're not the, like, Ohio, like they know it. They know it.
Sure.
But also, if you force it there and step up in a way where you can't get everything behind it, and now all of a sudden you just threw a pop-up to that middle safety, who, if you make a good throw, isn't going to get there. If you short arm it or can't get your body into it, now all of a sudden you're risking an interception. And like, as you said, it's like, so what happened? Well, he threw a turbo check down to Bo Jackson, who now has started to turn what should be 6-yard checkdowns into 11-yard checkdowns. And the next throw he made was the touchdown pass to Carnell Tate. So it's like, oh, he missed a touchdown. It's like, oh, then you mean they got the touchdown anyway? So this is like, we're having a conversation, I think, not about the Ohio State offense, not about Ohio State winning. We're having a conversation about Jeremiah Smith. And here's the thing, because there's been some idea of like, man, like people who are trying to read body language, right?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell on the end of this, but if this is only an if at the end of that play, Jeremiah Smith pulled up and like went, like dropped his shoulders a little bit and was like, like thinking to himself, man, I had him. That was an opportunity. That is not frustration. That is like what receivers do on every play. There's plays there. Again, I watched the end of the Missouri-Alabama game. Bo Prabula threw it to an Alabama defender, and there was like a guy on Missouri jumping up and down, like, why didn't you throw the ball to me? Right. So there's like, that's frustration. This is not that. This is just, I think every time any receiver feels like he beat his guy and is open and the ball's not thrown his way, he goes like this. So if you've got the old spyglass on number 4, arg, I see Jeremiah's showing some frustration with Julian today. It's like, no, he's not. He just went, because he thought he had a guy. Because guess how many times a game Jeremiah Smith beats his guy? 30?
Almost every time, yeah.
But he doesn't have 30 targets a game. So, like, it's just what happens. So anyway, like the idea of, are they not targeting him enough? Are they not looking at him enough? I think we would disagree with that.
I would vehemently disagree with that. But I want to say one more thing, like about this particular throw we're talking about, this like down the seam throw. And I love a lot of what Julian Sayin does. He's excellent. But he doesn't have like A1 raw arm strength, right? When he wants, even like the throw to Carnell Tate, like he had to put some oomph into that to get it there. He's insanely accurate. He's great off platform, but he's not a 6'5" dude who can really drive it down the field. A lot of guys who are his size aren't. Like Baker Mayfield's an anomaly because of the way he drives the ball at his size, right? So like that throw is going to require, I think, a little bit more from Julian Sayin to like really get it there before that safety on the other hash gets across. And it was a dirty pocket. And part of me wonders if he thought to himself, like, I can't do everything I need to do to get that ball exactly where it needs to go. And by the way, Bo Jackson's standing in front of me with nobody around him. So let me just take that, and it's 15 yards. So like,
and I don't want to throw a pick on the first drive on the road.
Yeah. And it's not, I think it's a bit conservative. Like there have definitely been times this year where I've thought Julian's been a little conservative. I think he's slowly but surely kind of breaking out of that. And I think it's good for that to kind of happen gradually, especially with like Ohio State, I think is afforded the luxury of him doing that based off who they've had to play so far. I'm not like fearful that he's not ever going to get to that point. I think he will, and I think he'll get there this year. But that is the type of throw that clearly he's like not quite there yet making. I think unless like if he was in the pocket with nobody around him and that play broke out the same way it did, I think he would have thrown it. But because he had to move off a spot, because he had to step up, and then when he stepped up, there was a guy like kind of right in front of him. He didn't do it. And I understand why he didn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I do think it's literally the last piece of all these things. And it's one of those things. You know what a lot of those 6'5" guys who can throw it through a wall aren't? Accurate.
Yeah. Right.
So like we all have strengths and weaknesses, and you try to accentuate your strengths and work on your weaknesses. And like he knows, but like the credit to him is he knows. And every time Ryan Day talks about quarterback play, he starts with take care of the ball.
Yep.
So like you can't, and this is where it's like at some point, because they could say this, if Ryan Day or Brian Hartline or Billy Fessler looked at that play with Julian Sayin and all the things we just said, and if they just said to him, you know what, let it rip next time. If you don't get if you don't get everything into it, and the safety comes over and makes a pick, he's going to pick it at the 10-yard line. It's going to be like a punt. We're okay. Take it. If they tell him that next time, he will. So they have to decide if they want to tell him that, because I would imagine what they're telling a first-year starting quarterback for now is take care of the ball.
Yeah, I mean they're calling. I think if you want and I'm not trying to pretend like I'm supreme ball knower or anything like that, but like the two things you see, I think probably most often from Ohio State's passing offense in terms of concepts is like one is curl flat. They run it a million times a game, but then the other thing they run is like hitches on the outside and then seams on the inside. They call it a lot. So like I think they call it a lot, because that's like makes sense to attack what they're seeing coverage wise. But I think like over time, you just expect like, okay, we're calling it. And you're not taking that shot, but hopefully you're at least seeing it and how it develops. And then like the moment will click when you're ready to make that throw. And then once he does that, like it's kind of bombs away, I think, because then either teams keep defending you that way and you keep hitting them for big plays on that, or they change the way to defend you. And then you open up a bunch of other stuff for the passing game.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing we want to talk about is just that Ohio State plays slow. So every offensive number for Ohio State, if you're doing comparisons to Ohio State of kind of like 3 years ago or older, the numbers on everything are going to be lower because they changed the clocks, but also because Ryan Day changed how he wants to play offense. And if you're comparing it to some other teams, like raw numbers, Ohio State's going to lose some raw number battles. So the idea that Jeremiah Smith ranks as high as he does in targets for what is literally the offense in FBS that has like the least amount of plays per game is remarkable, Bill, is it not?
It is. And you know what else I was thinking about earlier today? They play slow, yes. But the other thing is they don't throw incomplete passes. The clock
Yeah,
never
that's their
stops.
fault.
The clock doesn't stop. They run it 50-something% of the time, and then he completes 80% of his passes. The clock is just always running. So it's like they are getting hurt is not the right word, but the number of plays is limited by how efficient they are throwing the ball.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, have you ever thought about throwing more completions, get some more plays in the game? Like it is crazy, but it's just like worth keeping in mind, which again, I think I've said it a million times. It really was a problem early in 2023. They weren't getting the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. enough. And then he had 4 straight games with at least 10 targets because they figured it out. This could be an actual problem, and it's not.
Right. No, I don't think it is at all.
And you just have to keep that in mind. Any statistical analysis of the offense, just keep in mind how slow they play. Now, if you want to say to yourself, well, why do they play so slow? Well, that in itself is a problem. Well, like, why is it a problem? Is it if you think it's hurting their chances to win, or it's creating fewer possessions, which makes each possession matter more? And now if you get one pass that hits a guy in a helmet or one safety that falls down, and now, right, you with a smaller sample size, each little thing matters more. Where with Ohio State, you think, man, like if we just keep doing it over time, this is going to work. So if you want to have a strategy session about that, I think that can be a worthy conversation, but you can't be mad that they aren't playing faster to get Jeremiah Smith more plays.
Right. And also, like, I just think he's got it, like he's doing enough, right? They're getting him the ball enough.
Yes.
If they weren't and they were playing slow, I think it'd be like, well, what's up? Like you're hindering yourself here. But I really don't think that's the case. Like, would he have more catches if they played faster? Sure. But he's already at the top of the country in a lot of the stuff we're talking about, even despite the fact that they play slow. And I think too, I don't know if you were going to get to this and I'm jumping the gun at all. Like, no doubt in my mind that they have things for him that they have yet to unveil, right? Like there's not, if you look at like how much he's played in the slot, like it's the same.
So let's talk about that. So like
Yeah.
that slot thing is that a key to you? It's not a magic key, but is it a key to another way of offense?
Yeah, I think so. It's a key to getting him some different matchups. It's a key, I think, to getting him down the middle of the field. Like in that play you put up earlier on the screenshot, he was lined up in the slot on that play. Like it does happen. But I'm even thinking of like the first big play last year in the Rose Bowl against Oregon. He's in the slot. They play action toward him as he comes across the motion, and they flip him the ball in the flat, and he runs by the whole defense. Like they haven't tried that yet. They will. They haven't tried it yet. They've thrown him a couple screens, but not a ton. They put him in the backfield a little bit, but like there's stuff to get into with that too. I think there's a lot that I think in the past we've seen Ohio State do with its receivers that they've not yet done with Jeremiah Smith, that I also think they can do with Carnell Tate if they chose to. But I do think they're kind of just taking what's being given to them right now, but it has created this air of like, where are the explosive plays? Where are the wow plays with Jeremiah in particular? Because a lot of what he's doing at the moment is kind of like eating your vegetables a little bit, which is like, no one likes to do that. I understand.
You know what? I've really come around. I actually like vegetables now, and I actually take offense that you are equating slow offense to vegetables. Brussels sprouts, banger. Green beans, snow peas, come on. You like vegetables too. Do you like vegetables?
I like vegetables, but I'd rather have a burger.
So his slot percentage this year, according to PFF, he's been in the slot 15.1% of the time. Last year, he was in the slot 15.8% of the time. But I think here's the thing, Bill, that I think is the most interesting about this. In the opener against a Texas defense that a year ago took him away, that they were focused on, we are not going to let Texas take him away. He was in the slot 30% of the time.
Right.
And he has not been like the last. So then since that, he was 21% against Grambling, and then 6%, 16%, 19%, 4%, 15%. So like they're not like when they think they need to do it, they'll do it again.
Yes.
So to your point, like so Texas was 30. Like if they feel if Penn State has a game plan for them and they come out for 2 drives, like I'll be very curious. Like Jim Knowles, for everything Jim Knowles is and isn't, what he is very familiar with Ohio State's offense. So
yes, and
if
also
we could see much more slot trying to throw them off.
Yeah, I think now obviously the dynamics of this Penn State game have changed because James Franklin is fired and Penn State is no longer in the championship race. But it's a game you circle either way, right? And it's a game like they want to put it on Jim Knowles' defense. Like let's make no mistake about it. They came into the season thinking we're going to have some stuff for that game. Now maybe they won't do it because Penn State's in a different place, but I think they will. So I think you'll see an uptick in slot snaps for Jeremiah in that game, or like some different stuff with him against Penn State, and then you'll see more of it hopefully against Michigan, and then certainly in the postseason.
It is one of these things. One of the ongoing conversations of over 2 decades of doing this is what is Ohio State saving for Michigan, and then when maybe Ohio State is saving things, people are like, why aren't they doing anything? What are they doing? Saving this stuff? And it's like, well, maybe. So
yeah, it can be overstated at times, like the idea of saving things.
Yes.
But I mean, we saw it like the postseason is indication, right? Like there were things in that Oregon game, especially in the Rose Bowl, like they hadn't really done all year.
Yeah,
it happens. Yeah.
Okay, let me throw in a quick little thing here that I do think matters because it is just something I have observed, and I was not untoward, but I was standing in the outer office of Ryan Day's office. So when you go into Ryan Day's office, it's down a hallway. It's right across from the team room. And the team room is where the team meets, but it's also where he has his news conference on Tuesdays with the media. So anybody who's seen that, that's the team room. When he leaves, he exits to his right. And then he goes up 3 little steps and goes through a door. And when you go through that door, there's a hallway. And then right across from the hallway is 2 steps wide. Right across from the hallway is his office. And there is a person like his assistant who sits at a desk at the front of his office. And then there's like a little kitchen. And actually now I'm not like describing like how to break into this Louvre thing that you talked about the other day.
Yeah.
Am I giving a diagram of how to break into Ryan Day's office? I'm not, am I?
No, you have to get through like 6 doors before you're even in the team room. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this is there's the outer office where his assistant sits, a little kitchen, and then his big office, right? On the wall, like right where the little kitchen is, right before you go into his office, are Heisman Trophy like plaques of all the players who have made it to New York as Heisman finalists while Ryan Day is the head coach.
Oh.
And all that tells me is that matters to him.
Yes.
And so it is nowhere near the first priority. All he said it a million times this year. The goal is to win. The goal is to win. The goal is to win. But if you think he doesn't care about that at all, or he's not aware of it, or he's not having people double check stats for him, or trying to he cares. He cared that Chase Young made it to New York. He cared that Justin Fields got it there. He cared that, and not for himself, but like as a representation of his team, as for those players to have that life experience and to be honored in that way. So we just did a whole show on Julian Sagan's Heisman chances. But you know what I think would make Ryan Day super excited? To get Julian Sagan and a receiver to New York. And so to do that, you've got to throw these guys the ball. And I'm not saying that they're going to like pad stats and try to get Jeremiah Smith 200 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns against Rutgers, but they might.
Oh, they might. They were trying to get him a touchdown against Wisconsin.
So that's like just a side thing, but it is, I think, just to remind people that all this statistical stuff, it is not a 0% thing for the head coach. It is not a complete afterthought, right? Because he understands the realities of the situation.
Yeah, and he's also, I've heard him several times this year compare Jeremiah Smith to LeBron James. So like, he's he's fully aware of what he has at his disposal and intends on using him. It just so happens that he might have like prime Dwayne Wade with him too, and Carnell Tate, right? Like, and who
Yes.
knew? So like that's nothing but a good thing for Ohio State. I was looking, by the way. I like yards per route run as like a
Okay.
as a good receiver stat, and like 3 or above is really good. Um, there are only 14 P4 receivers that are 3 or better, and 2 of them play for Ohio State. 2 of them play for Indiana, but 2 of them play for Ohio State. So like what those guys are doing is pretty ridiculous. And actually, even like in the past, I went back to 2018 when Ohio State really started letting the ball fly. So that's 8 seasons. There have only been 3 other instances of Ohio State having 2 receivers with a yards per route run rate better than 3. So it's not like it happens every year, even when Ohio State has really good receivers. So the fact that both those guys are there right now is awesome. Maybe if you look at Jeremiah compared to last year, he's a little worse in that category, but he's still good. Maybe like an expectations that he would have like been better. I get like we're not off base, but it's not like anything he's doing is bad.
Yeah.
So and Ohio State really like truly might have like the 2 best receivers in the country.
Yeah. So that's a good indication. Like they're not wasting his time.
No.
They're not just having him go be a decoy, draw the safety help, and then let us run the offense 10 on 9 on the rest of the field. Right. Like that's the kind of thing that I would understand if that really could frustrate a receiver, but that's not what's happening.
No, I think, and like, this past game, I watched it and then I rewatched it and I rewatched it again, just like looking for anything that I thought might be, I don't know, alarming even the slightest bit. And I don't know that I saw it, but like, I would imagine it was a little bit of a frustrating game for Jeremiah Smith because there were 3 shots to the end zone that like he kind of got his hands on and didn't reel in, but they were like all for different. The first one was underthrown.
Let's go there.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to give your stat? You want to give the contested catch numbers first?
Let's go to contested catches.
Okay.
Last year, Ohio State receivers, this is all from PFF. Again, they have stats for everything. Contested catches last year for Ohio State receivers. However, they characterize that like, balls in the air and there's a defender there and a receiver there and you've got to go make a play. Carnell Tate caught 60% of his contested catches last year, 6 for 10. Emeka Egbuka was 59%, 13 of 22. Jeremiah Smith was 55%, 12 of 22. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This year, Carnell Tate is 10 of 11. That's 91%. And everybody in the nation who's ahead of him are like 2 for 2. There's a handful of guys who haven't had many chances. Carnell Tate is like by far the best contested catch receiver in America this year. Mm-hmm. He is 10 of 11. Jeremiah Smith is 2 for 10. And when you run through like all the contested catch stuff, like that is near the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so that is the proof that we have that Jeremiah Smith has completely lost it. Sorry. But it's an odd stat.
Sure.
Which is why you are responsible for explaining it.
It's definitely an odd stat. I think there's a couple things. And so I went back and watched all 3 of the he was over 3 against Wisconsin. I watched all 3 before we started. The first one, Jeremiah Smith beat the guy covering him, ball to the end zone, saying threw it to the front pylon. He should have threw it to the back pylon. And I think if he did, it would have been a touchdown. The second one was like slightly underthrown. I think it might have hit the DB like in the back of the head. And Jeremiah like tried to jump over him and grab it and he couldn't do it. But I also thought, to our discussion earlier, that Julian maybe did not get all of what he wanted to get on that throw because there was pressure. He could didn't, if you like watch it from the back view, he didn't 100% step into it. He kind of like pulled the string a little bit. And then the last one was probably the best thrown one because it was high and it was sort of away from the defender, but that defender just like shot his hand up. I think not even looking, just threw his hand up in the air and I think kind of got lucky that it sort of like grazed his hand and Jeremiah couldn't quite get his hands on it. I do think it's true that, and I don't know why, I couldn't explain why this case, like the ball placement from Sayin when he's throwing to Tate in contested situations, I think has been significantly more consistent than it has been with Jeremiah. And I don't know why that would be the case. Part of me wonders if it's like you know how good he is, so you're willing to like attempt contested throws to Jeremiah that might not be in perfect situations. Whereas like if you're throwing them to anybody else, you're going to make sure you get everything you possibly can get on that throw because they're not Jeremiah Smith. That's maybe me overanalyzing it. But and I've seen like some conversations on Twitter about it too. Like I did like Sayin and Tate have like a really nice rapport right now. And I don't think that he and Smith have a bad one, but I do think that can vary player to player for a quarterback, and it probably is true at the moment that Sayin's rapport with Tate is a little stronger than Smith's, but I don't think either one's bad. But in some of these contested situations, I do think the throws could maybe be a little better, and then it doesn't help Jeremiah that he's made so many ridiculous plays that we sort of expect him to catch every one, no matter the quality of the throw. So, I think maybe we're using that against him a little bit too.
And also, at least on the first two, wasn't it Ricardo Hallman, Wisconsin's best corner, who was covering
I think the
Jeremiah
first two
in those situations, which again is one of those situations like, well, I mean, it's not every single time, but more often than not, maybe your number one receivers getting the number one corner, and then that makes it slightly more difficult too. So
yeah.
I think I'd be willing to chalk a chunk of that up to like, man, weird stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think at the end of the year, I would not expect Carnell Tate's contested catch, percentage to be 90% and Jeremiah Smith's to be 20. I don't, that's halfway through the year. That's where it is. But then then Tate makes that unbelievable play on the first touchdown, and you couldn't have done it better. Like you can't play receiver better than Carnell Tate played it on that play. But I bet you part of Jeremiah Smith is like, oh man, I want to do that. And it's like, okay, like if he had been the exact guy running that route between two defenders and Julian Sen makes the exact throw, he probably does the exact same thing. But he just has had, again, like just there were a couple of those where you thought he was going to moss a guy and he didn't quite moss him. But I don't think it is a fundamental shortcoming. It's just kind of a thing that's happened. Which leads us to the last thing I have written down, which is you maybe thought that Jeremiah Smith was just not 100% healthy all the way against Wisconsin. And you thought maybe you saw a couple things here and there to indicate that.
Yeah, I just thought like he's just so explosive that, and I don't know that I saw that like snap to snap against Wisconsin. I really do wonder if the hit that he took against Illinois, the game before, where he was like clearly favoring his back afterward, just carried into the next week. There were some times, even on a couple of the contested balls we were talking about, I thought at least on one of them, like that's usually a play where Jeremiah is going to run past that DB, and he didn't do it. And like, does anybody think Jeremiah Smith is slow? No. So like I don't again, I'm not. My intention with this was not to make it like the excuse Jeremiah Smith's excellent play podcast. But if we're just talking about that game specifically, I really, I thought he blocked okay and was good, like finding space and providing outlets for Julian Saint. He did have like 9 catches and he was targeted 13 times in that game. It's not like the ball didn't come his way, but especially with some of the downfield stuff, I thought he did not look as explosive as he normally does.
Yeah. And again, it's just all it is, like we're making excuses for a guy who doesn't need excuses made for him. And he has 49 catches. That's 6th in the country. It's 3rd in the power, tied for 2nd in the Power 4.
Mm-hmm.
Tied for 2nd behind a guy with 90 targets. So like, I just like it's but we're talking about it because our Substack subscribers, some of them brought it up to us. And so I think it's worth, if fans are, this is just the way we do this job. If fans are talking about something, then it's worth talking about because you care about this team. You watch every game. You love this team with all your heart and soul. And if you're bringing something up, then okay. And a lot of times we try to bring that. We bring that attitude to news conferences. We want to ask coaches. We want to ask players about the things that fans are worried about. It's an off week this week. We're not bringing this to Ohio State, but we tried to delve into it a little bit, look at some numbers, go back and rewatch different parts of the game. And if we thought like, man, they are not looking at him, or man, like he does not look like himself, we 100% would say it.
Sure. Because we did it with Marvin, I think early in that year.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's not been really. Has there been a game this year where you thought, man, Jeremiah hasn't gotten the ball enough?
No, I'm actually like just been very soothed by was there a game where maybe he didn't get a ball for like 2 drives?
Yes. Washington. Well, the Washington game was like slow going. He ended up Washington having 8 catches on 9 targets, but for the first 20 minutes of that game, everyone was like, "Can you throw the ball to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, please?"
Yeah. So I think overall it can be, and just having seen Ohio State unsuccessfully force things at times, the Braxton Miller thing in 2015, which was different, but also is still trying to throw to receivers. Like, man, you are just forcing it here. And meanwhile, Michael Thomas went through a whole career. Michael Thomas had like 793 receiving yards the national championship year when he was the best receiver in college football and didn't get the ball. And so that was just because they were running the quarterback and handing the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. And then again, Marvin Harrison Jr. in 23, they spent the first month, they didn't throw on the ball. So there have been actual times here when it's like, man, they're forcing it too much. Maybe they're not doing it enough. And I have not, again, not to be, there's fans who have watched this team for 30 years and 40 years and 50 years, far more than what we've done for 20 or for 12 or whatever it is. But in my experience of watching Ohio State football, I just have not felt that. And I have felt it at times before when the offense is just not flowing. They're either allowing a defense to dictate too much and not getting a guy involved, or they're forcing it so much that it's unnatural. And I haven't felt either of those.
No, I haven't felt either of those either. And I'm also looking to the point of not making contested catches, to go back a couple points. So he's been, according to PFF, he's been targeted 10 times in contested situations and only has 2 receptions, but it's not like he has a bunch of drops. Right, he has 2 drops against Texas, and he doesn't have any in any other game.
He doesn't have any sense. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And then the other hard part of this is, and I think it speaks for itself. We led around the shoe with it the other day, talking about Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate's extraordinary. Like
I do wonder. Yeah, I think like we just talked for 45 minutes, like primarily about Jeremiah Smith, and I do wonder if some of the again, I don't know how to quite the couch it. I'll just call it concern. Maybe that's too strong, but I don't really know any other word to use it. Like the chatter about Jeremiah is born from like making sure Carnell gets his flowers, which we talk a ton about Jeremiah locally, nationally. He gets a ton of attention, and meanwhile, Carnell's having an excellent season and not getting the same publicity. And so I do think in a roundabout way, some of the talk about Jeremiah could actually be coming from a good place of make sure people are paying attention to what Carnell's doing too.
Yeah. And Carnell Tate has 34 catches on 41 targets. He is just absolutely maximizing every opportunity he has. Mm-hmm. And it can be a little difficult if the conversation around Jeremiah Smith was into the season was he's the best player in college football, and then you watch the game and you think, well, Carnell Tate is as good as Jeremiah Smith. What does that mean? It must mean that Jeremiah Smith isn't quite as good as we thought, because he's the best player in college football. And I watch Carnell Tate, and sometimes as a fan, I think to myself, is he better? And I think 90% of that is Carnell Tate is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so it's now, but we don't have to then have the conversation be, well, is Carnell Tate the best player in college football? Is he the second best player? It's probably just Ohio State has 2 awesome receivers, and one showed it more last year than the other did. But I think it is a natural human reaction. If something is excellent, then by comparison, you wonder if the thing next to it is maybe less excellent than you thought because this other thing's so excellent. It's just how our minds work.
Yeah, I think both can be excellent. And I thought, did you catch what Ryan Day said about the 2 after the game against Wisconsin? He said, I forget who asked him. Let me give credit. It might have been Austin Ward or Spencer Holbrook. I can't remember. Ryan Day about Carnell. He's just a different style of player than Jeremiah, but he's just as dangerous and just as good. Yeah. Which is I don't think anybody anticipated that coming out of his mouth coming into the season, but I certainly don't think it's a bad thing that he thinks that.
Yeah.
It's awesome for their passing attack and for Julian saying and for what they want to accomplish this year that you can say that and people don't look at you kind of cross-eyed.
Yeah. But still, I think, is it fair to say defenses, their first goal is to stop Jeremiah Smith?
Yes. And if the day ever comes where that's not the case, just wait. Just wait to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. And next time that the safety in the middle of the field goes to Carnell Tate's side instead of Jeremiah Smith's side,
Yeah.
wave goodbye to that. So, okay. I think it's an interesting discussion and people care about it. So I hope that clarified some things. So
Yeah.
that's
I
what
hope
we
we
want to
struck
do.
the right tone. I don't want it like to
Yeah.
be. Yeah. I don't think there's. I think it's interesting to talk about. I don't think it's concerning, and I don't. I don't want people to think we're like trying to pump up Jeremiah to take away from Carnell either.
But I think we're trying to be honest because like we already did Monday's show with Bill Rabinowitz and Marcus Hartman led with like how would you describe Carnell Tate's season, and all of our words were like stupendous-able, right? Like it was so all these things are happening, and it is not to take anybody for granted. But we just would like to note that we are giving up at least 8,000 YouTube views by not making this headline. What's wrong with Jeremiah Smith? So.
Correct.
Because that's not what we think, but there are some places out there that would do that. So you don't have to give us credit for it, but we also just want to reemphasize that's not the intention here. We're just talking through what some people are asking about. So,
Yeah.
okay. We will have our national college football picks, a bunch of interesting Big Ten games to pick, couple SEC games to pick. We'll have that Friday afternoon, so you guys can find that. There will not be a post-game show this weekend because Ohio State is off. And then Ohio State, Penn State next week. Just a bunch of stuff coming your way, including Audrey Snyder will join us here from the Nittany Dispatch podcast. So we always like when we have visiting media members come and join us. And if you missed it on this YouTube channel and on these podcast feeds, Ari Wasserman joined us for a 2-hour show on Thursday talking about how many national title contenders are there really out there? How many teams can really win it? And if you want to join our Substack, our Wednesday show for subscribers on Substack was an early breakdown of Ohio State, Michigan, Bill. It was our kind of like the version of a big game breakdown that you can do 5 weeks ahead of time. But we talked about not just what Michigan and Ohio State have been doing, but how they might match up against each other. And certainly if you want to try our Substack, that'd be a nice little bonus thing for you to go back and get.
Yeah, it was a fun conversation. And I think the right time by the way, did you notice we opened that show talking about like approaches to the game, and this week Ohio State had the band in, and instead of having the band in for Michigan week.
I was wondering about that. That's an instead they're getting it out of the way on the bye week.
I don't think they're going to do it twice.
Okay.
So I guess maybe that's something Brian Day can be asked about next week. He didn't do his radio show on Thursday to get asked about it, but yeah, they had him in. They had him in for the bye week.
I did see that. Okay, very interesting. Okay, sounds good. Thanks to you guys for being here. More stuff this week. Then a big week next week, Ohio State, Penn State. We're grateful you guys are joining us here on YouTube, joining us on the podcast feed. If you want to join us on Substack, we certainly would welcome you there. Like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Bill and Doug Show. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Maurice, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.